Is it letting you in now? Good evening and welcome to our School Grants Community Forum. We're going to be talking about getting some community feedback, and I'd like to introduce Superintendent Robert Jansen.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Curry. My name is Robert Jansen. I'm a very proud superintendent of Lincoln Consolidated Schools, and I'd like to start out by welcoming everyone this evening and thanking you for the great honor to serve you and your amazing children. I'd also like to thank the Lincoln Consolidated Schools Board of Education for their dedication, leadership, and love and great care they give this beautiful community. I'd also like to introduce our amazing team who will be assisting me this evening. Our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Mrs. Corinza Smith. Our Finance Director, Mr. Adam Snap. Our Communications Director, Mrs. Vicki Curry. Our Technology Director, Mr. Solomon Zhang. And from the WISD, the wonderful, amazing Dr. Jennifer Banks. I'd like to thank our entire Lincoln Consolidated School staff for all their hard work, caring ways, and dedication to the students of this amazing community each and every day. We're venturing into some exciting times as a district. If we continue to stay together as a community, there are such bright days ahead for Splitter Nation. Tonight, we plan to give you a few updates regarding several grants we are applying for, and we'll be doing a thought exchange at the end of the meeting to give an opportunity to share your thoughts. We'll also be sharing an email link for anyone who wants to give some narrative feedback. So tonight, we're going to talk about some district updates, a portrait of a graduate, our strategic planning. We'll plan to touch on ESSER III curriculum overview. We're going to get some presentations on some exciting grants opportunities in front of us. And then we'll be doing a thought exchange on 31AA, which is a student mental health grant. And then also in addition, ESSER III, we need to get some continued feedback for ESSER money that we're spending. And we'll talk about some next steps. Next slide, please. I'm so excited to begin engaging in conversation regarding the bright future of Lincoln Consolidated Schools. Last winter, several stakeholders came together to create our Lincoln Consolidated Schools Portrait of a Graduate, which serves as our North Star for system transformation by providing strategic direction for the redesign of the overall educational experience for our LCS students. We plan to use our portrait, a collective vision, to reinvigorate and re-engage students, educators, community stakeholders. I'm so proud of the competencies our community of stakeholders prioritized. Critical thinking, empathy, communication, collaboration, global citizenship, and adaptability. We'll be using our portrait as we move forward with our strategic planning work. Last Friday, a newsletter, we shared a link for anyone who is interested in taking part in the exciting work and are interested in joining the design team. And I encourage you to please sign up if you have any interest. And if you have any questions regarding this, feel free to send me an email. I'm so excited for this process and working beside so many of you to imagine what is possible and bringing what we imagine to reality to bring our beautiful district to its full potential. Helping every child excel to their full potential. And again, I'm so excited for the bright future of this district. We'll continue to share updates throughout the process, and we plan to send out several opportunities for feedback and including some surveys after this meeting. So at this time, I'd like to turn things over to our amazingly, extremely gifted and caring Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, Mrs. Corinza Smith, and then our amazing financial guru, Mr. Adam Snap.
Thank you, Mr. Jansen. One of the reasons we are here today is to talk about the continuity of learning plan for ESSER III, but also kind of talk through some of the grants that the district has available to them coming up. ESSER III was the elementary and secondary emergency relief funds that we received. We received these in 3 waves. 1 and 2 have been spent. ESSER III is what we needed community input on back in February. And so those are designated as a one-time expenditures with some restrictions. Next slide. The survey results that we had from our community input was to spend this money on staff to help accelerate learning and reduce learning gaps, high quality instructional materials, services for at-risk students, social emotional training and support, and also technology updates in terms of infrastructure and connectivity.
So what do we do with our ESSER III grant funds? So for our first priority of using the funds to increase staff to help accelerate learning and reduce learning gaps, we've increased the number of academic interventionists at each of the buildings. Last year, we hired 5 additional teachers, 1 for each of our elementary buildings, middle school, and high school, and they assist with math, ELA, and/or MTSS, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. We also made it a priority to keep our class sizes low so that teachers have more time to build relationships with students, better be able to meet the individual students' needs, and increase the social distancing within the classroom setting. Through the use of other funding sources, we hired an early literacy coach, but we also see instructional coaching as a support for our staff and students and a resource that we could use for future funds. Next slide. Next slide. For the second priority of using the funds for high quality instructional materials, we have the PLC process, which is our professional learning community, supporting the new science curricular resource at the middle school level, supporting the revised curriculum cycle in all content areas, reviewing content area curricular resources, supporting phonemic awareness, science of reading, and the essential literacy practices at the elementary level, and then disciplinary literacy at the secondary level. Next slide. For the third priority of using funds for added services for students, we have hired academic interventionists, like we stated earlier, and we've used the funds for summer programming, before and after school tutoring, and our bookmobile. Next slide. For our fourth priority, social emotional training and support, using funds for SEL training for our staff on the social emotional resources, as well as using funds for our behavior interventionists, counselors, and our social workers to assist with SEL support. This year, we actually had our staff trained on the 5 social emotional CASEL competencies and how to embed those competencies into our everyday work. So we're helping students with their social emotional learning, as well as regular academic curriculum. We also spent the first couple of weeks this year spending time as staff, building relationships with each other, building relationships with our students, building relationships with each other through an equity lens. Next slide. For technology, which was our last priority of ESSER funds, we do have one-to-one devices and hotspots, and we were helping improve our infrastructure and our connectivity. And we also have other funds that we're using to pay for more of our technology needs in the district. So I would like to take just a few minutes on a few slides just to talk about some of the curriculum priorities and initiatives that we have here in the district. One of them is MTSS, which is multi-tiered system of supports. And this is a framework that addresses the whole child, the whole learner. So we're talking about their physical well-being, their behavioral, their social-emotional, cognitive, academic. It addresses really the whole child. This framework that we're putting in place is going to help put systems in place, strategies, processes, and resources. And it's looked at through this lens of research-based and effective-based strategies, which help support our educators, our teachers, our staff to implement these practices into their everyday lives. One piece that we're working on as a district is the tiered process of MTSS, and that's with behavior and academics. So you might be hearing information about different supports that we're putting in place for helping students get the supports that they needed by putting extra assessments into our classrooms to really hone in on specific needs that the students have, and then how we can help address those needs. Another big piece that we're adding is our professional learning communities. And so we started our PLCs, we started that process last year, and there was a group of teacher leaders and administrators that went to a conference over the summer that really dug into what is the PLC process. And we came back and we made a few changes to how we were implementing it. But really it is a process that's never ending. And educators commit to working together, so working together collaboratively to ensure that we have higher levels of learning for every single student. And we really are focusing on 3 big ideas. We're focusing on learning, we're focusing on collaboration, and we're focusing on results with a really focused center of all means all. The last piece is our MyKIP plan, so the Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Process. Again, we started this process last year, and we have done some revisions to our plan based on new learning that we have acquired over the last couple of months. So the MyKIP process is a pathway for districts to improve student outcomes by really assessing the whole child. And so when we're talking about MTSS, looking at their social emotional needs, their behavior needs, their academic needs, and really looking at all of those data pieces and developing a plan to, again, address the whole child, and then looking at our funds to coordinate how we're going to develop those plans based on the needs. And so really this shift is how we're thinking about improving student outcomes over a period of time. It's continuous, right? And so when we talk about this mindset, we're talking about a continuous cycle. And it's this process that we're putting in place, and we're using a platform to house all of this information to help us make better decisions. So it's about a process, and it's based on needs. And then once we have those needs, we develop the plan, we implement that plan, we monitor the plan, and then we evaluate it to see if it's working or not. And then we go through that process again. If it's working, we keep doing. If it's not working, how can we modify it to make sure that we're meeting the best needs for our students? So one piece that we have come up with as a community, as a district team, is really looking at a flow chart. And this flow chart kind of embeds everything that we're doing here as a district. And so it shows how all the pieces that we're doing are connected through this equity lens. So you'll see equity at the top of our flow chart. The MTSS process, the multi-tier system of supports, it's that framework that organizes all of our district strategies, processes, and resources to ensure that we have all of these systems in place to help each and every learner be successful. And then we move into the portrait of a graduate, which our community had wonderful input about what that is going to look like here in our district. And we came up with those 6 competencies. So those competencies of critical thinking, empathy, communication, collaboration, global citizens, and adaptability, that's what we want a Lincoln graduate to embody once they leave our district. And that portrait of a graduate leads into our strategic plan, which then leads into our MyKIP plan, which specifically defines our goals, strategies, and activities that will lead to the success of our learners. And so we're hoping that you can see how all of the work that we're doing here in Lincoln is connected. And we're hoping that you will be a part of it, especially when we start getting into, like Mr. Jansen said, conversations about our strategic plan.
So the new grants that are coming up, these are grants that are outside of the ESSER III domain. So we have 98C, which is learning loss grant. There are a couple Section 97 grants, which have to do with safety and infrastructure. But then we also have the 31AA student mental health grant. This is the grant that is kind of bringing us all here together tonight so that we can discuss how that grant should be used. Go ahead, next slide. So the 98C learning loss grants is to help address learning loss for low-income students, children with disabilities, English learners, racial and ethnic minorities, homeless children, and also children in the youth and foster care. The grant is limited to how we can spend this money. So there's a couple different ways. We can spend it by administrating high quality, reliable assessments that can assess students' academic progress and assist the educators. Implementing evidence-based activities to meet the comprehensive needs of the students, providing information and assistance to parents and families on ways to support students, and also tracking student performance and engagement through distance learning. The main thing to look at here, though, is that this is a one-time grant. And if every school district in the state applied, we would get about $37 a student, which would be about $130,000. Go ahead. Karenza is going to talk about how the 98C grant is going to be allocated in terms of how we plan on using it for the district.
So we have professional learning in which we can use the Section 98C grant, and that could be professional screeners that we're putting in place, different diagnostic tools that we have in place and would like to start using, and then some evidence-based and research-based instructional practices. So when I was just talking about our MyKit plan and making sure that we have evidence and research-based practices, the 98C funds can be used to help our staff get the professional learning that they need on those particular tools. We also can use the grant for evidence-based activities and materials. We have been talking about PRISM's virtual reality, so look forward to that coming, hearing more about that soon. Obviously, our strategic planning that we're moving forward with, and we will want your input as well. High dosage tutoring that we'll be putting in place for our students at the levels at each of our elementary, middle school, and high school levels to really help students who need that extra support. And then looking at evidence-based and research-based instructional materials in terms of different content areas. And so we have a lot of pockets of content areas in each of the levels, so elementary, middle school, and high school, who are looking at reviewing some of the curricular resources that we're using, again, based on new learning, based on things being updated, based on having an equity focus. And so we're really looking at revamping some of our curricular resources, and we can use those fundings to help with that.
So of the Section 97 grants, the first one is the safety infrastructure. This one has a wide variety of things that it can be spent on. We've listed out a few. So we have cameras, door locks, hardened vestibules, window screening, buzzer systems. We can also train staff and students on gun ownership and gun safety. We can also provide professional development to our staff. But the one line in this grant that makes it very easy to use is any other school safety service or product. So this is anything that we feel that the district would need for school safety. This is also a one-time funding amount at about $109 a student. This would bring the district about $370,000. So the other grant, we have 97C. This will give us $2,000 for each building to do a comprehensive safety and security assessment of all of our buildings. The other grant is a 97D. So this is critical incident mapping. This is where they're going to come by and take drone level pictures of our buildings and create charts for first responders to come in and see everything in our building and where everything is at. Go ahead. And you can skip this one. So the main grant that we're here to talk about tonight is going to be the 31AA. This is what we need to have community input on and how we spend it. So the section 31AA is for student mental health needs. It can be used to hire direct hires or contracted workers for school psychologists, social workers, counselors, and school nurses. We can also use it for mental health screening tools, consultation with behavioral health clinicians. And then again, this nice little line they put in there, that's any other mental health service or product necessary to improve and maintain mental health of students. So that is a wide variety of things that we can do. It's just not limited to those first 3 bullet points. This also has the same amount of funding, $109 per student. It is one-time use. So again, about $370,000. And we do have to have community input to guide us in the use of these funds.
All right, so it looks like it's time for the thought exchange. So the thought exchange is will allow you to answer 4 survey questions, actually 3 survey questions. You can scan the QR code that's highlighted here. We also have a link we can use. I'm just not quite sure how to get to the chat, to put that in the chat. But once you click on the survey or use the QR code, feel free to go ahead and answer those 3 questions. The first question is an open-ended question, so you can type in the issues that are important to you, and the other 2 survey questions are multiple choice. The survey will be open until 6:30 p.m. And so feel free to do that anytime between now and then.
I did make you a host, Jennifer. So.
Okay. I think I'm all set. Bob or Carintha?
Yeah, so thank you everyone for this evening. We're going to leave the thought exchange open for a period of time tonight. We also, if people want to give narrative feedback, our next slide will have an email. So you're off, we encourage you to do the thought exchange. Thank you, Ms. Dr. Banks, for your efforts putting the thought exchange together for us and being here tonight. But then if you want to give some narrative feedback as well, we're going to post an email here in just a moment that you can also provide feedback. So with that, I just want to thank everybody on our team for your efforts. Really is exciting times for us as a district as we move forward, having these opportunities, and we value your feedback because we want to maximize the opportunities that we have. So with that, I say thank you and have a wonderful evening, everyone. And Vicki, if you want to share the email here in a moment that people can direct their questions or thoughts or comments to, I would appreciate it. So thank you.